On Thalos 7, they aged the chocolate beans 400 years. Geordi LaForge thinks Wesley's glands are erupting with hormones. And Ensign Gibson pilots the ship. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 2, Episode 10, The Dauphin, written by, or as the French say, Le Dauphin, written by Scott Rubinstein and Leonard Mlodinow, directed by our good pal Rob Bowman. This was February 18th, 1989. Very special thanks to Fazia Rizvi for sponsoring this episode. Fazia, thank you very much for sponsoring this one. You must like it a lot. How are you today, Cirroc?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
You almost had a little James Brown for a second there. It's just you leaned in a little bit on a James Brown sound.
Okay.
So
legend.
Absolute legend. So everybody, something you may not know, those of you listening into our audio podcast, first of all, you guys, you can always check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Just look up The Seventh Rule anywhere you go, Apple, iTunes, whatever you use, Spotify. Just look up The Seventh Rule. We're there. All of our episodes are there. But did you also know that all of our episode reviews of all the new shows, The Seventh Rule 2 is also there. So if you are subscribed to The Seventh Rule, also do a search for The Seventh Rule 2. Subscribe to that one because that's got all our Picard, Discovery reviews, Lower Decks, Prodigy, Strange New Worlds, everything. If you like The Seventh Rule, definitely subscribe to The Seventh Rule 2 as well. Very important. And also, please, everybody, super important, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, and we will read some of those ratings out, and we'll read some of those reviews if you leave us a review at the end of the episode. So leave us a review, please, and a 5-star rating if you think we deserve it.
Yeah,
we do.
It's worthy.
It definitely helps out a ton.
This episode itself, in particular, doesn't get my full 5-star rating. The Dauphin. But there were moments in there that I did think were enjoyable.
I had a feeling. One of our free-for-all people, the people that you will see in the free-for-all, one of them said this is one of their favorite Star Trek episodes ever. So that person will explain that position later on. Okay. Stay tuned for that. But I had a feeling, Cirroc, that you would not feel that way.
Yeah, I did not feel that way. There were elements of it that I did like. I like the fact that Wesley got a storyline and he got some focal point. Also got some good scenes with other characters. I like to see him and Geordi in different scenes together.
Yeah.
They have a good chemistry together to me. And it makes sense, them being working partners because of his intellect and because of, Geordi's experience. The two of them together would make a good team.
Mm-hmm.
So I did like that. You mentioned Ensign Gibson. Was that the blonde woman that was at the front next to Data at the helm?
Yeah, that was her. Ensign Gibson finally gets the big introduction that we've been waiting for. I don't know if she's ever back, though. I don't think so. I think that was...
yeah, I wasn't exactly waiting for this introduction. You said, finally, the big introduction. I'm like, I wasn't really waiting for the big introduction, but, I did notice that she was there and, at the helm next to Data. So
a lot of times...
and actually had lines, if I'm not mistaken, had a few lines.
A lot of times they just have the ensign of the week or something. Yeah, like the one guy that was like, I got the mind control thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm looking right now. Ensign Gibson, we hardly knew ye, just the one episode. Although she was in Sledgehammer, The Jeffersons, Dallas, The Facts of Life, Double Trouble, Days of Our Lives, 9 to 5, all kinds of Golden Palace, the Golden Palace, which you know well. Anyway, as
She
the Golden
definitely had
Girls spinoff.
the hair of the time period. That there was that kind of bigness of the hair.
Mhm.
It definitely reminded me of that time period hair.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I did notice that she was there, and I thought that was good to see that as
hmm
well.
But
Um,
back to Wes and Geordi, because I definitely want to talk about that as well. When we suddenly see Wes in engineering with Geordi, my first thought was, yes, this is a perfect fit. He's cool at the helm, talking with Data. That's a cute little combination there, and getting yelled at by the superiors. Fine. But if he's got this crazy intellect, he's got a brilliant mind, he needs to be helping with Geordi. He needs to be helping Geordi, and Geordi needs to be tapping into his brilliant mind. That's a resource. So that it's a very symbiotic relationship there.
yes,
Uh, you know, you could not find a better tutor than Geordi. Geordi is the perfect tutor for Wes, and Wes is the perfect helper for Geordi. So I thought that was a great fit, and I was very happy to see it.
I actually wondered why I hadn't seen more of it up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the other thing I felt like I don't see enough of, and Rob gave us a little bit of that in this episode with his camera work, but 10 Forward is such a great set. That bar lit up,
Beautiful.
and it's just like you have that, you should use it and kind of film it more and just, I don't really even have a full grasp of the bigness of it and the layout of it. I kind of have slivers of it in my head. The bars here, the tables are there, but I don't really have a very big grand vision of it. The way I feel like I know Quarks, for example, because been filmed so well. I know where the staircase is at Quarks. I know, they really filmed the bar very well. 10 Forward is not getting that same coverage at this
Totally.
point, and I would like to see more coverage inside of it, that space. Um, the other room that I think could use a lot more coverage, which we got in this episode, was the reactor room where the warp core is. Right? I mean, that it's such a cool room with the blue light effects, and where the scene where they had Wesley and Geordi, that it seemed like a place where they should be using more often. They use the bridge a lot, but I would like to see scenes and conversations happening in these various parts of the ship, which I think should get more coverage. That's all I mean. They could still have the same scenes play out, but let it play out in some of these really grand sets that you design.
That's a really good point. It reminds me of when I used to work in locations. I worked in locations for a show on ABC back in the day, a few years ago. And you kind of get the sense that the people that are finding locations, or in this case, building locations, they're part of the storytelling. They are telling the story. When somebody finds Chateau Picard for Picard season 1, they're part of the storytelling. When somebody's building these areas and creating this lighting, they are setting the mood. They are telling you a story. They are creating, situations. And sometimes the writing and the directing and the camera work adjusts to the location. So you really affect the final product in an enormous way. And sometimes they see something when it's like an outdoor location. They're like, oh my God, this fountain's amazing. We've got to use it. Run through this fountain instead of going there, or something like that. So back to your point, which is, this kind of using this location, it really, every time they're in a new location or a new part of the ship, it sets up like a different mood. It tells a story. It makes us go, oh, I wonder what that thing does, or oh, this is a cool thing. And so I completely agree with you. But do you think that it's probably just a budgetary thing, where it's like, this is always the bridge, this is always 10 Forward, this is always whatever, and then for this week, instead of the little indoor fake outdoor courtyard, they just built that little miniature engine room kind of thing, and then next week it's torn down to be a rock alien planet or something?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with budget and trying to logistically plan how they're going to get all of the shots that they need for the episode. But for the stuff that is there, they can plan it out. They can write it out. A lot of that stuff is
Mhm.
just standing all the time and just not being used whenever they're not in that space. They're not going to really completely tear stuff down. They might dismantle things and tear things apart,
And then move
but
it to
they
the
won't,
side.
yeah, move it to the side and then rebuild something else in that space. But the things are there, they exist. And um, if you do, for example, have a bar like 10 forward and it has all of these cool, let's say, photographs on the wall or little things, like I want to see the little details. I want to see the bottles of alcohol on the shelves in
Totally.
the bar in the back, right? I want to see the backlit. I want to see the lighting on the countertop. I wanted the camera to kind of glide across that lighting. I want to see the craftsmanship of the design build. Even, are there windows in that space? Deep Space Nine had these really, really nice oval windows that were accented the quarters, at Sisko's quarters or anybody's quarters. They had the window design. Um, Even on the promenade, those large windows that you could stand and look out of,
Huge. Yeah.
and just capturing the detail of that molding and of those shapes, and they built it so you can look at it, and I want to see it. And so when I get to see little stuff, like when I see the operating rooms or the ops, and there was a lot of different locations, I would say. Transporter room, the 10 forward, um,
Mhm.
the room that they're in behind you. I don't know what they would call that, one of
That
the
was like
quarters, I
sick
guess.
bay. Well, that was when they were in
Oh, okay, that
sick
was
bay,
sick
I
bay.
think.
Yeah.
But you know who would totally agree with you? Two groups. Star Trek, all Star Trek fans, and the art department. Because you've seen it, like they spend hours and hours
Yeah.
and hours building these sets. Hold the work, right? They're building when people are trying to shoot. They're staying there long hours, doing all these things, getting super creative. And they add all these extreme little details. Like you look behind the monster
Mhm.
alien, there's all these buttons, and the cameras rarely ever pick it up. We never get a close up. The Star Trek fans are like getting screenshots and zooming in, and so these people put in all this work. They have incredible craftsmanship. They go into
Yeah.
incredible detail, and they do all that just in case the director says, "Hey, get a little close up of that," which hardly ever happens, right? But you walking around the promenade on Deep Space Nine, you saw all the details that were never picked up.
Yeah. So I want to see that. I enjoy, for example, if Geordi and Crusher are working on something, I want to see them actually open a panel in the wall. They did that a lot on DS9 with O'Brien. He
Mm-hmm.
would actually open panels and get into the machinery of it, and you could see the actual, inside the panel. So it lets you know there's even a layer of detail beyond the surface layer. Like you can remove this panel and we've got wiring or what kind of electronic system behind that. If you want to see it, we'll build it for you. And that's how detailed these guys are. And I would take advantage of that as a director and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to have Wesley working on the reactor, and we're going to have him digging in this panel, and he's going to, and I want to see even a close up of those kinds of things. Even though we saw a little bit of it, we didn't get those close ups in those moments. But Rob does his best to kind of show us the ship, and I think that's one of the elements that he does best when he's
Mm.
directing these things. He really tries to make more use of the ship than other directors, even sometimes taking risks that I would question, or just so he can try to do that. There was a shot, for example, of Geordi in the beginning at the table, and it was from underneath the table. I don't know if you noticed it, but the camera was from under the table, and it caught Wesley in the background and kind of closed on him, and they used a two shot on it. But I was like, are they under the table?
That kind of point of view kind of takes you out of it a little bit, right?
Yeah, it slightly takes me out of it because I'm thinking, where is the camera? And like, who looks at something from this kind of an angle where they're like, but it's a risk because he wants to shoot something in a different way. Maybe he's hiding something in the set that he's trying to not catch. I wasn't sure on why he exactly picked that, but
Do you think
it
that
was
maybe it's
unusual.
because this is an episode, forgive me, but this is an episode where not a lot happened. This wasn't
Yeah.
a terribly exciting episode, and I don't mean that as too much of a knock. You know, there's some episodes that are about battles and some that are about relationships. There's some that are funny. There are others that are serious. There wasn't a ton that happened in this. This was more of a story. This was more of, you know, a love story or an interesting thing that happened. So do you think that maybe he's trying to get a little extra creative with the shots just to give us a little bit more,
Spice
a
it
little
up.
bit, yeah.
Yeah. It's a spice up. Absolutely. I think that's what it is. Because the story is slow and you know, there are not enough curveballs in this episode. There's nothing there that
True.
makes you say, "Oh, I don't know what's going on here." The
There
only
was
kind
only
of
one curveball. Let me get
only one.
when that girl's friend showed up out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
wait, who is this girl? And then you piece it
yeah,
together. Oh, it's Graham that keeps changing.
exactly. And we can get into that whole concept in afterwards in a different discussion, but just for the simple fact of a basic story that has no twists, no turns, no morality play. Because at first I was thinking, oh, is this like a Cinderella story of a poor girl who's being forced to do stuff she doesn't want to do? And
Mm.
I thought, oh, is that what this is? And then I said, oh no, this is not a Cinderella story because there are no other like sisters to compete with her. It's just her. So this is a different story than that. And then I thought of the arranged marriages situation, like when you're forced into an arranged marriage that you don't like or want to be in, and you're dreading that outcome, and
Mm-hmm.
people are telling you, no, that's your destiny, that's what you're supposed to do, or that's how it goes. So I thought, is this an arranged marriage type of scenario, morality type of play that they're putting on for us, where this woman is being dragged into a situation that she doesn't want for her future, but they kind of went away from that, so it wasn't that at some point. I thought it was you being pushed into a direction that you don't want to be going in, and that's what this story was about at first, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of lost that element. They gave that up at the end, so it didn't really hit that note for me.
Yeah, I had a similar journey. Then, I also thought, oh, is this episode going to be about her mediating between two warring sides? But we didn't even get to that
Right.
point. And then the old lady was just kind of like, all right, that's it. See you later. You're off on your
My
own. And it
job
was,
done. Yeah.
yeah, it was very anticlimactic. And then they had their Star Wars moment where the girl, Celia, is that her name? Celia? She says,
Yeah.
I'm going to miss you. And then Anya says, I know. Like Han Solo and Princess. Like that was it. She literally said, I know. When she didn't say I'm gonna miss you too. And I was a little bummed because at the end I wanted them to turn back into their furry monster beasts and hug
And
it
just have
out.
it
Like
out.
I
Oh,
want
hug
them
out.
to like be like, I'm gonna miss you. I'm going to miss you too. And then they turn into their monsters and they just hug and drool on each other and do whatever they do. I think that would have been so cute to see with their fur all matted
Oh,
up.
yeah. I'm going to leave that alone, but I wanted to say that your version of the ending is definitely funny. Yeah, this just I don't know, man. I couldn't figure out what the message was. It
Right.
wasn't consistent for me. You know, is it telling the story of the Anna, the mother, being the protector of this person going through this transitional period in their life, like some adolescence or whatever of this alien's version of adolescence? Is that what this is about? Is this about this alien's version of adolescence and growing up and finding their own kind of young adulthood? I couldn't figure out what exact message they were trying to tell
right
with this story.
Like the pitch in the writer's room, a lot of times, like you mentioned, Cinderella, they'll say like, what about a Cinderella episode? What about a Rumpelstiltskin episode or a Leprechaun episode? What about a Three Bears episode? And then they incorporate it.
Roswell. It's Roswell, right. Something really simple to just pitch.
But what did they say on this one? The pitch was, it's, there's some people, they transport. Wes likes one, she's very nice to him. So, okay.
Like, I'm waiting, and then she turns into Bigfoot.
Yeah, so I wonder if maybe they did have like a pitch for it or an angle, and then certain things kind of got shaved off, where they had to cut certain scenes that explain things a little bit better. I don't know, because that happens a lot of times where they'll tell us, the writer or the director will say, we actually had to cut this scene that explained things a little bit more. So maybe there was something like that happened. But yeah, I don't know what the theme necessarily was. I guess the theme was for Wes.
What about backstory on these aliens that shapeshift and why they are necessary for this mediation? What skill set do they have that allows them to mediate this dispute between these? I couldn't tell. Was that part of their life journey, like the Jem'Hadar fighting?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that part of what they're bred for? Is this some life mission calling that she has? There was no backstory even explaining their purpose of trying to mediate this. Like, so what skill set do you have? Like, you don't even know what you're supposed to do. From what I heard from the character, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and the old lady that cracked me up, she said, "I'm older than you can possibly imagine." And I was just like, what a weird thing to say. Like, she's saying that we can't imagine a big number. What, like 4,000? I could 10 million. I can imagine these numbers. You can't imagine a number that I can't imagine. You can't. It's easy. We understand numbers, even really big ones with a lot of zeros. We get it. But yeah. So maybe what it was they just want to give Wes a love story. That's probably where it started. They wanted to give Wes a love story that could not continue because it needs to be a bottle episode. So it needs to have an end where he doesn't see her again. Okay, well, they can't kill a teenager, so maybe they'll make it, to where she's not entirely as she appears, or maybe so it may have started out with, we got to give him a love story, but within these parameters. Maybe that's how it kind of started out.
Yeah,
maybe I'm giving too much credit. I don't know.
No, I mean, for sure they wanted the love story in there. I just find so many flaws with it. It just was bothering me. For one, the absence of his mother becomes more prevalent in this episode. It becomes, to me, this is why you have a mother and a parent, because you're going through these feelings, emotions, you're having these kinds of things. He's obviously close with his mom. They've been through the trenches together, which got him there. This is one of those moments when you reach out to your mom and have a phone call and say, "Hey, Mom, I'm feeling this kind of way and this and that." And I would have liked to see that. It felt like he was on his own, and I really felt a little bit sad for him that he didn't have a family or somebody who really has his best interests at heart, kind of giving him Like Jordy's like, I don't have time for that, man. Get out of here, bro. Like,
You got raging hormones. Go off.
Get your hormones out of here. And then Guinan's like, get out of here, kid. It's about me now. And it's like, right. And so that's what people do who are not your parents. Your parents are going to drop everything and be like, all right, what's bothering my kid? And I mean, most good parents are going to do that.
Like Benjamin Sisko did for Jake when
Yeah.
Jake was in love with a Dabo girl. And actually, we'll cover this on the other side of the break. We got to go on the other side. But I want to ask you on the other side how you felt about Wesley Crusher's, first love interest being a nice, sweet, cute young lady, and you got stuck with a 40-year-old woman in bed with you. Jake, if you were just like, hey man, why did I get stuck with like a mind sucker? I forgot what the episode is called. But we'll hit that on the other side. Also, I submit this was actually 3 love stories in one. There were 3 love stories in this episode, each one more beautiful than the last. But we'll hit that on the other side, everybody. You're going to want to stick around for this one. We're going to learn a lot. We'll be right back on the 7th rule. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th rule with Cirroc frickin' Lofton.
Hello.
So here are the trivioids of the week. The Enterprise is approaching Clavdia 3. Geordi wants to make some routine adjustments on the deuterium control conduit. It's overdue. Anya likes humans. Superconducting magnets can rip the iron right out of your blood cells. Celia's parents both died shortly after her birth. Data uses a colloquialism. That was interesting. Geordi thinks Wesley's glands are erupting with hormones. Actually, he could probably see it with his visor. I wonder if his visor could actually see. He's like, I could see all kinds of volcanoes going up inside you, man. Worf likes women that hurl heavy objects at him. He got really excited about that. Wes orders Thalian chocolate mousse. On Thalos 7, they age the chocolate beans 400 years. Andronesian encephalitis is a contagious disease. Ensign Gibson pilots the ship. Celia wishes there were something she could give Wes. All right. Those were the trivioids. What are you laughing about? We're laughing. You guys should have heard we were laughing too much on the break here. So we're going to continue. The question is, Cirroc, were you a little sad that Wes got a nice lady his own age for his first love story, and you got a 40-year-old woman?
When I was watching him, have his moment in his love scene or his first kiss, I was like thinking about my first time having that, feeling, and there's a lot of nerves in there involved with it because you're nervous. And it's just not natural to just kiss somebody you don't know and you're not really in a real relationship with. So, and you don't have the experience as well. So I felt that he handled it well. I thought he did a good job. I thought it made it a lot easier that it was somebody who was, attractive person that was his age.
Yeah.
But in this more similar way than in the differences, we both were in relationships that were not healthy, let's say, in an unhealthy situation.
That's true. They're both very different alien species.
Yeah. So that was one of the things. But I thought he did a fantastic job. I think he's very wholesome and honest, and he gives you a lot of his facial expressions feel like they're genuine. He gives you full eyes on his close-ups and on his performances. He gives you a lot of eyes, and I think he's doing a great job as the Wesley character.
Yeah, now it's killing me. Everybody in the live chat or in the comments below, please let us know, or maybe Cirroc, you remember, what was the episode called with you and I don't remember.
Oh, that was the Muse. The
The
Muse.
Muse. Thank you very much. Yes,
Yeah,
that's what it was.
with Meg Foster.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
the three love stories. Obviously, there was Wesley Crusher falling for this girl, like he's already in love with her that quickly. You also had Riker and Guinan kind of halfway jokingly, but at some point, Guinan was like, she straight up said, "Shut up, kid! Like
Yeah.
you go play with your
Yeah.
Spider-Man comics, young man. You
Yeah.
go do your thing. This is cool. I'm
I'm
enjoying
enjoying
this."
this.
Because they were
Yes.
just, she and Riker were rattling these lines off
Very good.
back and forth. It was beautiful. Like that must have been so much fun to shoot. But also, the third one, the third love story was obviously between Worf and the old lady. Because at the end there, remember at the beginning, Worf said he loves it when a woman growls or roars and throws things at him and claws him. And then in sick bay, he got that, a formidable foe. And then afterwards, when she's leaving, he wasn't like, "You better not set foot on this ship again or I'll take you down." He was like, maybe we should do this again sometime. You were a formidable opponent. And he was like leaning in and he even
it
like,
would be an honor.
yeah, he wanted to be honor. So I think that, and she was very receptive too. She's like, "Oh, I would like that as well, tee hee." So I think there was
Yeah.
something going on there. I think that was pretty hot.
Yeah.
Romantic.
Her voice, her and Wallace Shawn would be an episode worth listening to. Oh, do you like my voice? Yes. It would just,
Kind of sounds like
but
the Lollipop Guild now. "Celia, you must not touch that boy. He'll soil you and discard you like he once did to me." I don't know if that's really what she said, but
I got Kai Wynn vibes from her. I don't know if you did too, but
yeah,
there were some moments when I felt the Kai vibes from her, like just like, you're creeping me out right now. Just like ease up a little bit. Walking around the ship like it's your ship, telling people what to do. Don't do that, dude. Like, what the hell are you? Like, no tour for you. Tour's over.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing? Telling people. She goes to the engineer. She tells Geordi what to do. She goes into the sick bay. She tells Polanski what to do. I'm like, who the hell are you? And she wanted to kill Hennessy. You can't kill the Hennessy.
No. That would really
start
O'Brien would leave the transporter room and come after you.
That
could
like, all right,
too far.
Intergalactic war right there. They killing Hennessy. Speaking of which, I thought it was a little bit weird, and just tell me if it's like if you noticed this when it was said. When Dr. Pulaski was identifying the alien species or trying to identify the alien species that this woman was.
Elastomorph or something like that.
Yeah, I forgot the name of the character. I remember Celia. But she says in the Galactic Zoological Catalog is what she referred to, right? Is it just me, or would you classify alien species in a book called the Zoological Catalog?
I know I agree with where you're going. I think they would go with Xeno rather than zoological, right? Because zoological means animals. And she's calling them animals rather than Xeno, which would be like other species or other aliens or things like that. Now that's a very good point. Yeah.
That's what popped up to me, and I'm thinking, well, you're talking about intelligent life that's actually, negotiating peace deals between other intelligent life, and you just referred to that life as essentially an animal. You categorize like some kind of bird or mammal, other kind of species, and I just didn't feel like that was the right verbiage to use when describing a possible ally in the Federation. Like, Hey, should we let these zoological guys in the Federation or not? Where'd you find him?
Plus poor Wes. He's like, man, it's like in Ghostbusters when Dr. Venkman goes, so she's a dog. I don't know. So now poor Wes is like,
Yeah.
okay, so now not only is this girl breaking up with me, but you're calling her an animal. And Pulaski's like, did you see her? Did you see what they just did?
Yeah. Is this the first mention of shapeshifters
Yeah.
and this kind of idea? Was
Unless
it
it's
in the
an
original
original
series?
series that I
That
don't
yeah, because I
remember,
don't remember.
or
Yeah,
animated series. But it's certainly the first time in the Next Generation.
yeah.
So that was interesting. I did catch
So
that.
as that as an idea, going forward, the idea of shapeshifter obviously becomes very relevant in Deep Space Nine, and I presumably get having its origin, at least in the Star Trek world, in this episode.
Yeah, everybody in the comments, let us know if there's an original series or animated series episode that mentions shape shifting or morphing or something. I can think of a couple that changed their shape, but I don't think it was ever mentioned. I'm not sure, but let us know. I will say, though, for the people that do really like this episode, I can see why. I did not expect to get emotional at the end, but I did feel for Wesley and for that girl at the end. I was like, the other stuff, was kind of up and down. But the point was, and I agree with you, that Will Wheaton actually did some really good acting. He does it with his eyes. He looks sincere. He looks real. He looks genuine when he's doing it. That girl was really good. The actress that played, she was very bubbly and happy and friendly, but not overtly so that it wasn't believable. She just seemed like
Believable.
she just wanted to be a happy person. She was excited to meet somebody. She was excited to have an emotional attraction and connection with somebody. So I can,
And she played that newness, by the way, very
yeah,
well, like being new to things and saying, "Oh wow, what is this?" Like I felt like that was authentic in her
yeah,
performance.
because
Like, oh, she had never been there. Yeah,
that's hard to portray that with it still looking genuine. It could come off as sarcastic or fake if you're playing that, but she did it well, and it's not easy to do.
yeah. So yeah, I think that Will Wheaton, especially when he's working with other younger actors, we saw him
Right.
really excel. We saw him in the episode with the little kids, and he kind of played the big brother to all those kids. I thought he really did well in that episode. We saw him on that planet surface where they were all running naked, or half naked.
They were not naked, Cirroc. They all had some
Okay,
kind of little item.
well, that episode, and he also did well because he was with young people, and his his skills really shine when you put him in against or around people his age or thereabouts. Then you really get to see, oh wow, this guy is amazing. To see him going up against people like Frakes and Brent Spiner and Patrick Stewart. There it is. They were wearing something. What was that episode called, anyways?
Justice.
Justice. Oh yeah, no justice, no peace.
Hey, it's just
Um,
us. Okay.
yeah. So yeah, when he's around, people that are around his age, then I think his his abilities really shine even more. You start to see, oh wow, this guy. In contrast, when you see him in scenes with Patrick Stewart, it's hard to gauge how good somebody is because Patrick is also good. And so he holds his own against these people, right? We see him holding his own against Brent and Michael Dorn and all of these people who he's doing scenes with. He's just holding his own with LeVar Burton. But when you
Mhm.
see him really shining to me is when he's placed against with people his age. Then you say, oh, this guy's that much, you know, better as an actor um, when you see him kind of in his own element. So
Yeah.
kudos to him for just being so great. I like the way he delivered "She's perfect." you know, to LaForge in that moment. I was a little bit not a big fan of the music. The music felt corny and almost like whimsical and almost too playful and fantasy to me. It didn't complement. It
I
didn't
did
give
not
it
even
the
notice music this
seriousness.
time. I didn't even
Yeah, it
catch
had
it.
the little quaint fairy tale like whimsical music in the background, and it didn't really give it the kind of uh the tone of seriousness for me that I would have liked better. So
Mhm.
wasn't a big fan of the inserts of the music.
Yeah, and just to
Uh,
finish off on Wesley, I just wanted to say, to piggyback on what you were saying, uh, I totally agree with you. I think now they're putting Will Wheaton in a position to succeed now, whereas before they're kind of putting him in a position to fail a lot of times, putting him in episodes where some 16-year-old kid is telling everybody, what to do and is saving the day, and it makes people's eyes roll a little bit. Maybe if you're a 14-year-old kid, you're like, no, it makes perfect sense. Teenagers know everything. But as an older person, you look at that and you're like, I don't know if that works. But kudos to the writers for adjusting. And these are similar things that Denise Crosby ran into, where she didn't really feel like she was being put in a position to succeed. And so clearly they are improving upon that with
yeah,
Wesley. The writing for him, it's starting to really fit. It doesn't bother me at all now everything I see with him works. It all works,
makes
and I'm
sense.
happy with it.
Yes, yes.
Guinan, they're writing great scenes for her, and she's just eating up the camera. She's loving it, and it's working.
Yeah.
So I really think like that aspect of things, their character work is improving, even if not every single episode is got a perfect storyline, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And I will say, to add to what you were saying about Guinan, this is the second episode now that we've seen Whoopi really shine.
Mm-hmm.
She gave the great advice to Picard in the last episode in The Measure of a Man, and their scene together was, one of the defining scenes because it changed the tone of what was happening. And in this one, she also becomes somebody that really becomes um, Troy has the ability to read your mind, but I don't
I hope
feel
not.
she has the ability. I mean, like she senses and she does that mind, telepathy thing, but her actions are not as soothing as Whoopi's actions when she's engaged with you in her kind of therapy. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely.
I feel like Troy is can analyze it and identify the problem, but I feel like Guinan can fix the problem. Like she can relate to you, she can get closer to you, she can break through that barrier that people keep up when they're shelled up with emotions and they don't want people to, know what they're dealing with. Guinan is able to penetrate that defense that people put up
Totally.
and and kind of reach you with her words. Troy is more analytic, like, oh, I sense this and that, and but not going to give you the not gonna take the initiative to really, lock in the same way that I feel like Whoopi does with her therapy and her counseling.
Yeah, they've definitely done, this is the opposite side of what we were just saying a few minutes ago, but converse to that is they've definitely done the character of Troy and the actress Marina Sirtis a disservice by bringing in a character with very similar skill sets or very similar role, which is
Mm-hmm.
the counselor, the helper, the friend. And I think that happened because, Tasha Yar left or Denise Crosby left. And Marina has said that if Denise Crosby hadn't have gone, they would have gotten rid of Troy. And that would have made more sense to keep Tasha Yar and have Guinan fill that counselor type role. But since they lost Denise, so now they had two counselor types. Now at this point, it feels like they should have differentiated, like what you said, they're differentiating them a little bit, which is great, but I feel like they should differentiate even more and make Troy much more of a captain's advisor and being really involved in the diplomacy of things, and just having a more important role of like talking to the alien ambassadors and, you know, really being whispering in Picard's ears what he should be doing, because clearly the helpful friend type, that's been taken up by Guinan and it's been done very well. And so Troy needs a bigger role in a different direction. And I don't really know if she's getting that, at least not at this point, for sure.
Yeah. And what I could propose another idea that complements what you're saying. I would have Troy be the voice of Starfleet and their protocol.
That's a great idea.
You know, the conscious of them. Mm-hmm. So that when Picard is going under counseling, she can say, well, you know, and this is that. It's kind of the voice of Starfleet's point of view. Mm-hmm. And that way they could have utilized her in that way, you know.
Yeah, she's more like a guide in that way. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Right. And then also for diplomacy, which would be another Starfleet type of, you know, usage of her skills. So she makes the first contact with people, or she's part of the arrival crew to greet people, makes an assessment, and then uses that assessment to inform the captain and make certain judgment calls about going forward, again in line with Starfleet kind of protocol. So she can be more of the regulation type of rule maker, kind of sensing vibe diplomacy person, and Guinan can be more of the personal, you know, personal issues. You're breaking up with your girlfriend, you're dealing with this, and I'll help you with those personal moments.
Right, the trusted friend. Absolutely.
The trusted friend.
Well, check it out, everybody. It's time for the home run of the episode, if you can believe that. What do you think, Cirroc? Who gets the home run of the episode?
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Wil Wheaton, Wesley. He gets his own episode. He holds his own in a lot of different scenes. He carries a rather dull episode, actually, and there's not much going on. There's not much action in this. There's no morality play. This is just a love story, and for such a very basic, not too complicated love story, I think he carries it. And I don't know what age he is at this point, but he did a really phenomenal job of just, you know, keeping my attention, using his eyes a lot to convey his performances, and also, like I said, about his genuine and authenticity. I feel like there is something really honest about the way he performs. It feels like he's revealing something or exposing himself, his feelings and his emotions. He doesn't really hide those. He wears them out in his scenes and his performance, and you really connect with him in that kind of a way and feel him in that way. So I'm going to give the home run to Wil Wheaton.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's really between Wil Wheaton and the actress that played Celia. Her name is Jamie Hubbard, because it's really tough to come in and, you know, and first of all, just to play, you know, one week or one day or whatever it is in one episode, but also to play such a bubbly and cute and happy and lighthearted type of character and make it look genuine. That's really tough. It's a lot harder than it seems. I know if I ever try to do it, just looks sarcastic. They're like, nah, he's not really like, I don't believe him for a second. It's actually really tough. But yeah, definitely Wil Wheaton. They're putting him in a position to succeed. He can act. Clearly, he can act very well at a young age, which is not easy. So he definitely gets the home run of the day from me. Now it is time to give a very special thanks to some of our friends. Before we do that, everybody, please make sure you give this video a like. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and a review. The reviews are very important. We'll read them out in subsequent episodes. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel. It's very important. It helps a ton. So here are our pals. Their names are Homer Frizzell, Dr. Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan,
Arucan.
Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anna Post, Anil O. Polat, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Gu, Dequeue, Neil Akasaka.
Akasaka.
Our pal Justine Norton-Kertson, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, My Live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Jane Jorgensen, Henry Unger, Allyson Leach-Heid, Julie Manosfee, Marcia Classic Schreier, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner and Jason Okun. Who said this was one of their favorite episodes ever? You're about to find out on the other side.
Yeah.
We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton. This is the free-for-all. Look, it's Melissa Longo, everybody. We're also joined by, wow, cool shirt, Melissa, by the way. Everybody, you can get yourself a Seventh Rule shirt by clicking the link in the description box below. You can go to our online store and get yourself an awesome Seventh Rule shirt, just like the one Melissa Longo is wearing, or like the one the Dark Lord Chris McGee is wearing, who is also here. All right, look who else. Yeah, great. Looks awesome. Mai is here live in Tokyo. We've got Faith Howell on the bridge of the Enterprise D. We've got Dr. Susan V. Gruner and what I believe she calls her woman cave. She's got her Stembolt and Chill shirt.
And an ode to the original series. I don't know if you can see these, but these may look familiar. What I did is I bought 2 pairs. So here's Kirk and Spock and Uhura, and I cut them in half, and I sent Eve one mismatched pair and kept the other mismatched pair for me.
So this cute. Is so cute. And Eve is wearing hers right now too. Eve is here.
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah, I got today.
Look, everybody, Carrie Schwent is here, aka Crafty Bear. We've got the Matt Boardman hanging out. He's had a long day. Allyson Leach-Heid and Justin Weir are both wearing Melissa Longo creations that you can get at the introvertedrepublic.com and clicking on Art Made by Melissa. Okay. Walking Art Made by Melissa.
Yeah.
I'm so comfy.
Oh, yay.
It's the only sweatshirt so comfy you'll want to wear it during the summer. So very quickly, Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
I'm gonna go with a 6.6. 6.6.
I think it's lower.
Might be lower.
5.8.
Mm.
I'm gonna go 9.2.
Whoa.
Melissa was out in the sun quite a bit today.
It's hilarious.
6.4.
Anybody else?
5.9, Faith.
All right. Here we go, everybody. The answer is the IMDb score is currently a 6.2.
Oh.
I love that Eve wrote that down.
I do write it down.
I know. All right. Any non-appearance mentions? I did not catch any. What about you, Dark Lord?
No, I did not catch any.
All right. It's official. So, Melissa Longo, can you get us started and tell us what you thought? Drink some water and tell us what you thought of this episode.
I think you should tell me about my eyes.
Iron.
tell me about my eyes.
Yes, the heart in my day, the soul in my night.
Shut up, kid.
Shut up, kid.
Beneath my wings.
Tell me more about my eyes. But I didn't hate this episode because there were a couple of moments like the scene between Riker and Guinan that just sold it for me. And then this Worf moment. Talking about the mating rituals of Klingons. We recite poetry.
And throw heavy
a lot.
And duck.
Man, I want to see the outtakes of that, see if you said anything else.
I know. The episode, so yeah, it did have some good moments, but all in all, I left the episode feeling like I didn't really get the point. I didn't get the point. And maybe I missed it, but yeah.
You and Cirroc are in agreement on that one, almost word for word there. But did you feel like Worf got a little bit randy when he was describing and he was like going, he was okay, that wasn't just me though.
Yeah. I mean, in the mix of all the good moments, because there were some good moments in this, but yes, him getting a little too excited when he's explaining to Wesley. But so did Riker and Guinan. And I'm like, kid, pay attention, because this is fun stuff. And he's interrupting, and I'm just like, Wesley, stop interrupting.
Well,
fun.
Great stuff. Thank you. Somebody that's never interrupted or thrown chairs is Chris McGee. Chris, what did you think of this episode?
Never been recorded anyway. What do I think about this? Well, if I were the sort of person to skip episodes during a rewatch of the show, this would probably be one of the few. Maybe because I don't find it relatable, not having had, puppy love in my youth, but also because how many times have we met shape-shifting aliens now in Star Trek so far? It seems almost like a crutch, maybe some lazy writing, I don't know. And they probably didn't even need that in this episode. That seemed like kind of like an afterthought almost. By my count, I think there's 3 now. There was Marcia in Star Trek 6. There's this Elastomorph and the Founders. Correct me if I'm wrong, if there's more than I have forgotten about.
We were asking about that earlier, if there was one in the original series. Star Trek 6, you got it. Excellent.
Of course, my favorite scene, I'm sorry, but it is that flirting scene between Riker and Guinan, especially when Guinan forgets herself for a moment.
Love it.
Since the Okun isn't here right now, I will mention one thing, kind of a cinematography thing that I liked. I don't know why, but I kind of liked when there was a scene when they broke up Wesley and Celia in the hallway in the corridor. And it ends on an interestingly framed shot of Wesley just kind of leaning against the wall. And for some reason, I like the way that was framed. I'm not a cinematographer. I can't really articulate why I liked it, but it just kind of enhanced the loneliness that he was probably feeling right at that moment.
Yeah.
Of course, Guinan's closing lines of that little flirting scene kind of reminded me of the words. Not the flirting scene, excuse me. The scene when she was consoling Wesley near the end of the episode, saying that each time you fall in love, it's going to feel different, reminded me of the words of another wise person by the name of Huey Lewis. First time you feel it, it might make you sad. Next time you feel it, it might make you mad. As for my memorable quote of the episode, there weren't that many, so I'll just pick the one that for some reason has stuck with me, and that is careful putting me on a pedestal so high you may not be able to reach me.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thank you, Dark Lord Chris McGee. Oh, real quick, this was Iman playing Marcia, Star Trek VI. The cool contact lenses. Everybody remembers Iman, Somalian, I believe.
Married to David Bowie.
David Bowie's wife.
Right. Okay. Mai is live in Tokyo. What's up, Mai? What do you think of this one?
Barely live. They need to do their research at Star Trek a little bit more. The Dauphin, it's the title for the eldest son of the King of France, not the princess. It's for a prince. So hence the background. That's the coat of arms of the Dauphin. It was used for 500 years in France, and they still missed it, but whatever. This episode was rife with more lines of the episode than perhaps any to date. I thought it was hilarious. I'll leave it to Chris to pick up all the rest of the other lines, but I was cracking up every other minute in this episode. I thought it was fun. But for me, this was a love story, but not a lightweight, roll your eyes kind of love story. I think this episode represents Wesley's transition from boy to man, to be honest. There are various kinds of amorous love, starting with puppy love, which the crew suspected this to be, which is mostly hormonal. And then there's that kind of love that stays with you forever. And it shapes the kind of partner you'll be with the other person, with every other person you'll be with for the rest of your life. It's the blueprint that defines your understanding of romantic love. It may not be the best each time, but it often feels that way. And if you find a life partner, you will likely draw on that emotional memory as a way to learn, as you learn to become one with another person. I mean, you know the love I'm talking about, the one you feel at maybe 17, give or take, yet at 50, you can recall as clearly as if that person had just left the room and their scent remains on the wind. It's romantic, it's all consuming. It takes mere seconds to go from zero to heart pounding, I love you kind of thing. The sense of them before me, the sense of their happiness equals my happiness. The knowledge that they are known as deeply by nobody else as they are by you, and vice versa. I think this signifies adult love, which is why I think that it signifies his transition from boy to man. This I felt completely in my life twice, but years later, every tiny detail remains as crystal clear, every look, every word, every feeling. To have felt it is to be able to recognize it in others, and this is what I saw. This is what Wesley felt, I think. And the depiction by Will Wheaton with such incredible aplomb for such a young person, far more than the script or the words, is what told me that this is what was being conveyed to the audience. So for me, this episode was a great love story, and who doesn't love a great love story?
Me. Great stuff, Mai. Thank you very much. Faith Howell is here. She disagrees with me. She agrees with you. I could tell from her reaction. What do you think of this episode?
So I tapped into that little bit of French history as well, that I was looking at. I know we learned in French class, Dauphin would be a male ending and Dauphine would be the female. And so I wondered if that was a mistake, that it was just misused. But I also made me wonder, maybe the story wasn't supposed to be pointed to Saleya, but it was supposed to be pointed to Wesley, perhaps. I do know that in France, I looked up, they do call this episode La Dauphine. So, well, who knows? I guess that's up to the interpretation. I definitely got Romeo and Juliet and like the Little Mermaid vibes sort of infused together, which I thought was an interesting mashup. My favorite moment, I think, of the episode, though, was when they're talking about how having a great time makes you sad. And it gave me like Sunday Star Trek convention vibes of that. I'm having such a blast. I love being with all of you guys, but I know it's coming to an end very, very soon. And so I thought that was very poignant, and I could feel what she was feeling in that moment.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Faith. Dr. Susan V. Gruner is here. Sometimes she's in Greece, Sometimes she's in Florida saving the state. What's up, Sue? What'd you think of this
Good luck
one?
with that. I didn't hate it, nor did I love it. I agree with Mai and Faith about Will Wheaton, the job he did. I thought he was great. There's just some messiness in there with all that other stuff with the changelings or whatever they were called. I just didn't think that fit in right. It was missing something. I absolutely did not like the whole Riker and Guinan thing. I thought it was creepy. If a guy talked to me like that, I wouldn't smack him side of the head, but he would get about 30 seconds and I'd leave. That's just so bizarre. One thing that I thought was weird that I just noticed on this, remember when this came out, all we had were 19-inch TVs. That's what we had back then. Now we have ginormous TVs, and we notice, or I notice, I'm sure everybody does, a lot of bizarre things. I think they put too much makeup on these people. Did you notice all the blush they put on the women? It's like shitloads of makeup that you don't normally see these days. Well, maybe they put shitloads on, but they're better at it. But yeah, not exactly my favorite, but I give Will Wheaton kudos for the job he did here.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Thank you. Not the shape shifting into those bizarro pseudo. I'm not even sure what to call them.
Sleazaks with claws.
Nightmare fuel.
Care Bears?
Those things needed more blush, that's for sure. Matt, real quick, is that an HD thing? Is that back in the day you needed that extra makeup for it to kind of show up on screen, but now in HD we're seeing every detail and it looks a little extreme?
Yep.
Okay. So you worked on that, right? You helped to make those things pop. Okay, maybe more on that in a little bit. Right now, and Dr. Marie Segal has joined us. More on her in a moment. But right now, #1 Star Trek / Star Wars fan, Eve England, is here. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I think the problem I had with this one mainly, I think I literally caught up with the last 3 episodes that I hadn't watched before the last one we watched. So which actually I thought some of those were actually way better than I was expecting. So I was kind of expecting the flow to keep going, that this was going to be another really good one. But I think in contrast, to last week's episode, this just feels it completely flat. Like everyone said, it just lacks something. I mean, I agree it was funny. There were parts of it that I thought were fairly entertaining, but again, it just felt like a complete filler episode. Again, like Wesley, I think he was great. But yeah, it wasn't, I just felt it sort of fell down by reference to some really good episodes we've just seen. But going back actually to Sue's point, there's a couple of points I did sort of note, and I think it's more detailed stuff that you could really see. I just loved the texture of all of Guinan's fabrics and her clothes. And I was like, this is another brilliant example of how Trek does really good knitwear. Even in her hat, she had this sort of textured stuff. I thought that was really beautiful, how that kind of came up on the screen. I really liked that game that Wesley was playing. I don't know if it was some sort of futuristic battleships or whether that is a game that we know about. I didn't know anything about it, but I thought that looked really good fun. And then I think the visuals of 10 Forward were great. The music was actually, I think the music was really good, but it's sort of, the music seemed to be far more dramatic and entertaining than actually the plot was. So there was a sort of disconnect to that, but I thought the music kind of added at least something to it. I mean, just from a thematic perspective, I did feel that it was a little bit irresponsible and reckless for all of the adults to kind of push Wes into this relationship or to sort of go after Celia, because they knew that she was being transported for this very important role. And it just felt that it just felt cruel to Wesley when they knew he had feelings for her and they just let it run and they were egging him on basically. And, and it didn't obviously wasn't going to end well for him or for her. So again, that didn't sit comfortably with me. So I thought that was a little bit odd. And yeah, why on earth did they change into those scare bears when they were those beautiful light beings, and why they weren't the light beings in their quarters? Just, again, I thought maybe I'd missed it, but just didn't quite make any sense. So yeah, just I think it could have been a really good episode if they'd gone into the politics and why she was so important, how she was going to save this planet. I think would have been much more interesting, possibly, than focusing too much on the love story.
Really cool that you mentioned the game. I was fascinated by that too. I actually paused it to get a good look at it. Kind of looked like a mix between chess and Battleship and Stratego.
Yeah.
Those were my thoughts on that one, but that's cool. Thanks for mentioning that. Carrie Schwent got pissed when you said Scare Bears, but she liked this episode. What do you think of it in actuality?
Nah, given the nightmare fuel of especially the smaller one, Scare Bears is absolutely appropriate, and I love it. Is this episode perfect? No, but it has so many fun moments. Will Wheaton is just on top of his game in this episode. So much face acting, so much he says just without even having to say anything, I thought was just so great. Even when he played the petulant, okay, you lied to me, so I'm mad at you right now, but I still like you, and conflicted. I honestly would have liked at the end of the episode when she changed, for us not to see what she looked like on the transporter pad, to only keep it on his face with all the glow and just keep what she actually looked like a mystery. Yeah, if I had to change one thing, that's probably what I would do. I have a couple of fun facts about some of the guest actors, but I'll save that for later. I did enjoy Worf's scene at the end with Anya when they were having their, okay, you're cool, yeah, you're cool. Maybe next time we'll have some fun and fight on the same side, instead of trying to wrestle with each other. I thought they had a very interesting, very platonic chemistry to them. Yeah, got that. And I will absolutely jump on the Guinan Riker hysterical bandwagon. I love rewatching just that scene alone, and enjoying Wesley's face. Like I said before with the face acting, his face acting in that scene is just so many levels of hysterical, including the eye roll. And he's like, "Okay, fine, you two have fun. I'm gonna go figure it out myself." Where is it? Oh yeah, and yeah, with the I will preface my limerick by quoting Dumbledore from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. "Oh, to be young and to feel love's keen sting." I thought very much is appropriate for this episode, and I will now present the following. Falling in love when you're young can be grand. Be careful, as it can get out of hand. Suddenly your eyes meet, your heart skips a few beats, but it can end as quickly as it began.
True.
And I wrote that one half asleep this morning in about 5 minutes. It just sort of popped out. I love it when that happens.
Speaking of half asleep, the Matt Boardman said he was up all night. What a trooper. What do you think of this episode?
This is always it's a fun one. I mean, it does it advance the plot in any way or anything? I know, but it's one of those interesting filler episodes for me. It's nice to know that in the 24th century that teenage dating is still awkward. And in some ways I can relate to Wesley, because my dating experience was not that great when I was growing up. Yeah, no, it was not. I mean, I don't know. I was too busy being a nerd and playing sports and stuff like that, and girls were like this. I mean, I have 4 sisters, but like girls outside of my family, that they were like a whole other like uncharted territory that was very awkward for me. I was very much you see that sky today, talk about blue. Anyway, but I like how things progress. There was definitely some funny moments, and I thought it was interesting to read that Will Wheaton would later refer to this episode as kind of some parallels to things that had happened in his own life, where he had, bore himself to someone who turned out to be a monster. And I think, I think all of us at some point or another can relate to that experience. But this also was a fun episode in the remastered to work on, because we got the opportunity to work with Dan Curry, and in the remastered version, the asteroids that they're standing on when they're in the holodeck, those are all, we had the opportunity to replace those, because unfortunately the transfer was not well, they looked like meatballs, basically bushy meatballs instead of asteroids. So we had to so we had to replace those. But that was really cool. But what's great is that Dan got to then come in, and he got to kind of tell us, like, this is what my original idea was for this, and so then we were able to help him realize what he had pictured back then. And yeah, it there was a lot of we talked a little bit about the makeup, and yeah, it's I was always taught it's the squint test, right? Because I do some graphics like the LCARs, and Doug Drexler always taught me a technique that Mike Okuda actually taught him. It was called the squint test, and is when you stare at the screen and you squint your eyes, if you can still see what's going on, then it's going to pass the test, because you have to realize that once it's on camera, it's going to be something's going to be off in the background. So I would imagine that's probably why the makeup was as layered as it was, because they were thinking about how this is going to be captured on camera and then transferred over to basically VHS, where it's just, it goes through a Vaseline filter or something on its way over.
Wow. Great stuff. Lots of knowledge there. We got Okuda bombed. We got Doug Drexler bombed, all kinds of good stuff. Thank you very much, Mr. Matt Boardman. Allyson Leach-Heid is here. What's up, Allyson? What did you think of this episode?
I like this episode. I liked getting something that wasn't as high stakes after having, 2 weeks of very high stakes. And it is a lovely little love story. So I like those things. And it's also funny. It's a great character development for both Wesley, of course, and Worf. We get a lot of good Worf in this, which is always fun. And I was thinking, like, why would Wesley go to Worf first for love advice? And then I'm like, oh, wait, Worf's the one tucking him in at night. He's the parent that he has. Like, oh, so he went to his parent. I'm like, oh, that's funny. So that just occurred to me. I thought that was cute. The game board that he's playing on is actually a prop from RoboCop. Originally, they rented that, and it's also in Back to the Future 2 in Marty McFly's den in 2015. So that's an expensive prop. They had to go rent that one. So fun for that little background there. And my favorite line is a Pulaski line, and I love her in this, even though there's barely any of her. But the fact that she jumps in front of her patient when the big scary monsters come out, about to, put some hurt on Worf, and she's like, no, I'm going to stop this. So I love that. But I love the line, and I use the line fairly frequently with my children. If you mean mathematically, yes, the probability is not 0. So I paraphrase that one a lot in my life. But there's so much about it that, yeah, the monster costumes are terrible. That's why Rob Bowman tried to not show them and show more reaction shots of people reacting to the scary monsters than the scary monsters, because they're not great. But I liked the care that all the adults were having for Wesley, because as much as you want to save somebody from heartbreak, they're going to be heartbroken anyway. So you might as well let them have a little bit of joy first. And my favorite is probably when Guinan at the end comes and sits down at the table and does this. Because that's that's Wesley's face. And one of the best ways to get somebody to open up to you is to mirror their body language or the words they're using. And she just sat down and just did it, like, and just waited for him to start talking. And I thought that was wonderful. So that's why I like that episode. It's sweet, and we know it's not going to be terrible. It's not going to be the end all be all of love stories, but it's a sweet story. So I like that one.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Allyson Leach-Heid. Did somebody say patient? Dr. Marie Segal is here. We teased earlier that somebody here said it was one of their favorite episodes ever.
Okay.
It is Dr. Marie Segal, who, by the way, requests that we all mimic her body language while she talks about her favorite episode. What do you think?
I just love it for like the nostalgia. I mean, it's impossible for me to ever judge it now because I saw it when it first came out, and I was like, I guess 4 or 5, probably 4, and yeah, I don't know how old it was, 4 or 5, and it's impossible for me still not to see this episode through like little girl eyes. And it was so magical. That monster was so scary, but like it's one of the episodes where like it's relatable as a kid, which made Star Trek TNG like such a great family like viewing show and family bonding. I guess just like a couple other 2 other things, or one other thing really. Because I just like can't gush enough about like the Wesley Saleha scenes and how it's like Data's day, and you get to really see like a slice of life just in Wesley's life when he like goes around talking to everybody. It's just so brilliant and wonderful, and the stakes aren't that high, and there's like a cute little, what I wish was not just platonic, relationship with Worf and Anya. But like one of my favorite things is like the Riker Guinan. Like obviously that seems creepy, and in some ways I'm like, were they just messing with Wesley? But then in other ways, like after like Star Trek would be on from 9 to 10, like sometimes me and my sister would pretend to be asleep so we could watch more TV, and my dad would like go back downstairs and hang out with my mom. And Love Connection and then Studs were on after, and this is totally how they talked on Love Connection. So it really like wasn't that far off for the time on TV, but I just love everything about this episode. It can do no wrong.
Great stuff. Did not disappoint. Cirroc, any final thoughts on this episode?
Oh, you skipped me, Brian.
Oh, Justin, we don't see your video. Where'd you go?
Justin's in the house.
Oh, where did I go?
So sorry. We just had you. You're adding your video now. Hopefully.
The
There you are.
I don't know what happened with that. Anyways, yeah, I'm still here.
There you are. Yeah, go for it.
So this episode, it's funny because normally I'm one of the first few to start the free-for-alls, so going last, you guys said it all. I agree with most things that have been said. This episode is okay. I don't love it. I don't hate it. There's definitely a lot of funny moments, but I'm just gonna tell you a few funny things that I jotted down. When Wes was creeping on the girl before he knew her, he goes to Data, and I was like, "Oh, Data's the new Facebook stalker. You want to know something about someone? You just go to Data. He'll tell you straight up." Anya. What a crazy old scary woman. It made me think of Kai Wynn. I could just see those two sitting down at a cafe, sipping wine during the day, just talking shit about everybody around them and having a great old time. When Wesley was with Geordi in the engineer room, that smooth little slide down the ladder, you guys catch that? Like, that was so cool. Oh, come on. You tell a boy and a girl that like each other that they can't see each other. Are you kidding me? What's the first thing they're going to do? Like, that's crazy. Yeah. The final thing I will share is that Dan Curry used a painted morph scene, a hand animated sequence from picture to picture. So that was all hand drawn, right? That was previously used in Friday the 13th, Part 6. Jason Lives by Dan Curry. I had no idea he had a horror background, so I wanted to share that. Yeah, nice to see y'all.
Very cool. Good stuff, Justin.
I have like one other thing that I forgot really fast. Just like this came out in 1989, like a few months before Little Mermaid. And one of the best things about that year and this episode and like what it was like to be little then is that Patty Edwards, who was Anya's voice, she was actually like Flotsam and Jetsam in Little Mermaid. And it just felt like in childhood, that like voice was everywhere. And she did like tons of voiceovers. So it's like another fun thing to really make it appeal to kids, which is a great starting point.
Were those the evil eels?
Yes.
Wow, very good.
Just misunderstood. But yes.
Okay, I have a question. What is The Little Mermaid? I do not know.
Oh.
Is it a movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disney? Oh, yeah, it's a movie. It's a Disney movie.
Original story by Hans Christian Andersen.
Thank you.
Okay.
With Renee Auberjonois.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Doing the chef.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe if I had children or something, I would know what that is. But otherwise.
You know The Lion King?
I've heard of it, but I have not seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
These were big movies for us as part of the
have
child.
to have a Disney movie marathon with Sue soon.
Yeah.
Life-changing
No.
movies.
Sue, you can skip all those
No,
and just watch
and
Up.
I'm not a Disney fan.
Up is the best. Just watch that one.
Oh,
I'm more of a
so
Caddyshack kind of woman.
Yes.
Well,
Don't watch Bambi.
Hey, Sue, you got that
No.
at least you got that going for you.
Which is nice. The Dalai Lama himself, Cinderella.
You're sitting around smoking, you know, it's like, yeah. I got that going for me.
Which is nice.
Cirroc, do you have any final thoughts on this episode or your favorite Disney movie? Is it Up?
No, I'm not going to go to favorite Disney movie, but I will say that one thing never been more true. Whoopi does have the best chocolate. And she did say that in this episode. So I will second that because I did like everything she did in this episode. Also, I would have liked to see a scene with Picard doing some kind of conversation with Wesley. Like, you know, I know you're here without your mother, and, you know, there's certain parts of adolescence that you'll be dealing with, and if you ever have any questions, you can come to me or something to that effect. I think it would have led well for Picard's character. I would have like, there was a moment where he kind of looks at him and then he's like, oh, well, he's on his own. And he kind of moves on. And I'm like, dude, like, you know, reach out to the kid. His mom's not there. He's by himself. He doesn't have any family. And he's, you know, he's asking Worf for sex advice. So that's not the best deal, man. Picard, please, this is an emergency situation. We need some sanity in here. Step in. So I just wish that he took some leadership in that they wrote that kind of a reaching out type of leadership, because, you know, he went from calling him the boy to, you know, now he's a young man, and he should have somebody there that says, don't worry, I got your back, and, you know, you can talk to me if you need to talk. I just felt like he was looking for that and he couldn't find it. Geordi was like, get out of here, your hormones are raging, you know, and everybody was basically saying they, you know, even Guinan at some point was like, shut up, kid, this is about me now. And a mother wouldn't do that. A mother would drop everything and say, you know, what is the issue? How can I help you? And would put you first. And so I felt like that is the thing that I was missing from Picard, kind of just saying, don't worry, I know your mom's not here. And if you need any advice, or if you need any, you come to my quarters and talk to me, or come to the ready room, you know, something to that effect. And then lastly, I'll say, you know, one thing that jumped out to me is watching this episode was when these ambassadors of heads of state, they called them, were coming to the Enterprise, something jumped out at me, and that was Picard said, let's go greet them. And he kind of took his, you know, the group of people, and I've noticed now every episode they go to greet whoever it is they're welcoming aboard the ship, or if they're beaming down to a planet. And I realized that greeting is one of the essential elements of Star Trek and how we greet each other, how we welcome each other in, how we, extend a handshake and say, welcome, and the greeting aspect of it is literally the first step of friendship building, of diplomacy, of, this is why when you have world leaders go to other countries, they have the military standing at attention and they have the red carpets out, because the greeting of someone is an important step in building a solid foundation for a relationship. And that's one thing that I think Star Trek has held true throughout the years. They've always made sure that they send their greetings or their greeting crew or their welcoming committee to everyone. And I think that's an essential element or characteristic of being earnest and trying to build a solid relationship or friendship on good ground.
Hear, hear. Well, that's it for us, everybody. We'd like to give thanks to Melissa Longo, Chris McGee, Eve England, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Faith Howell, My Live in Tokyo, Carrie Schwent, Matt Boardman, Allyson Leach-Heid, Dr. Marie Segal, and of course, Justin freaking Weir hanging out with us. All right. For myself, Cirroc Lofton, Melissa Longo, and Mr. Aaron Eisenberg, thank you all very much for joining us. And until next time, always remember the seventh rule.